Hello. Hey Mojo, good to see you here. So yes, guys, we're gonna continue this very nice build of the Skyhawk 172. Again, found myself here in the evening having some time to continue that work. So I'm just gonna use every hour I have to keep developing this beautiful plane. In preparation of doing my first test flight that I'm planning to do this weekend. So there's still some stuff that I need to do, namely systems limits and also some other limits tab and viewpoint things. So we need to set the lights, the position lights, the landing lights, and the taxi lights. And again, this stuff we will also work on, I guess, also after we did all of our fancy visualization or 3D modeling stuff in Blender. But I just like to complete as many things as I can just before we go on to that stage. So that's on top here, the red stage and the yellow stage. So we're just completing this whole test flight thing. I was also thinking about also doing, I guess, also needing to do some other test flights later on in the once we have the entire visual model of the plane, because, but perhaps I'm wrong. Once we're going to do our test flight, we haven't built a 2D cockpit so far. I'm not interested in a 2D cockpit at all. But for being able to do the test flight, I perhaps need to have a 2D cockpit. I'm not quite sure how that works. So that's also something that we will experience together this weekend. For example, how can I ever turn on my engine in my test plane here if we don't have a cockpit? Well, we can use key binds, I guess. But for example, with the autopilot and all kinds of other stuff, it might become quite handy if we could just see what the autopilot is doing in terms of the display. So that kind of stuff that's going through my mind that I guess need to fix first before we can do our test flight. I'm not sure. Anyways, turn on some music. Let me see. Meanwhile, there was no meanwhile so far, because my last stream was just yesterday. What did I say? Control geometry, flap, extend, and retract time, and photo check wing courtesy lights. Oh, that's something that I did do, by the way, which is actually quite interesting. Apparently, there is a wing courtesy light in the Skyhawk, and it's just underneath one of the wings. I think at the commander seat side, so the left seat, there's actually a light underneath the wing that you can turn on and off. I guess to help yourself getting into the cabin at night, or to put in some baggage in the baggage compartment, which I didn't know that was actually there. So obviously we're gonna model that as well. So that's nice. Let me see. And the control geometry, flap, extend, and retract time. Yeah, that's something that we can set in PlaneMaker as well. I haven't found the time yet to look at that video, so that's for next time. All right, systems limits. So we are already in the menu here, standards, systems, and we've got 2 limits tabs. I've already completed all of those previous tabs in terms of the electrical systems, finally. So that's good. So here we are. So we can set some limits here, and I think these are just for default instruments that we can enable for our airplane through X-Plane. So these are not that important because we are going to model our own instruments. We're not going to make use of those dynamically self-created instruments that we could use here in X-Plane, at least in the 2D panel, I believe. So as you can see here on top, we can put in limits at the bottom threshold red line, yellow, green arc range, and then again yellow, the top yellow and red line stuff. And we can set those numbers for fuel flow, for torque, power, max RPM and stuff. But obviously we already set quite a few of these measures in earlier tabs and in other menus. So I don't think this is that necessary, but let's just set them. Let me see. Got PlaneMaker here on my iPad, so I'm completely, or PlaneMaker manual. All right, so limits, fuel flow. Let's just say gallons. Well, again, this is a bit weird where there's a red line at the bottom of the arc, because I would guess that would be 0 for all of these different components. But I might be wrong. In terms of the checkbox, I don't know what that is for. Does PlaneMaker give me any Hoover? No. That's interesting. Should we just enable those? I have actually no idea. Well, perhaps it is better just to get the PlaneMaker menu over here, so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Configuring the avionics system, yes. Display limits. The aircraft ranges are set using the limits 1 and limits 2 tabs. Roger. Of the system's dialog box found in the ES. These tabs are used to set the operational and limiting temperatures, pressures, voltages, blah, 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 of various systems on the aircraft. Yes, this information should be available in the aircraft pilot operating manual. Okay, note that this information is not used in the flight model. It only controls what the instruments will display. Again, that's what I was referring to earlier. In addition to setting the red, yellow, and green arc for the aircraft, the tabs determine the units used in displaying torque, temperature, and power. Okay, to configure the colors, yeah, that's the second tab, or was it warnings? No. I have seen those where we could set colors, but perhaps that's in another dialog box. To configure the colors used in the instrument displays, open the Systems dialog box from the Standard menu and select the Arc Colors tab. Yes, but we are in these Systems. I believe that should be... Just to check, isn't that the limits? No. Standards, Systems. I have seen those. With the viewpoint? Let me just quickly check, so I don't skip on anything. Our colors, here it is. It's in the viewpoint menu. Exactly. Hey Jim, I don't have sound as family watching a film, but I'm lurking. Good to know. Hope you're doing well. Yes, so our colors are in actually a completely different dialog. Or dialog menu window pane. Systems, limits. Okay. Finally, if you don't want to use explains default instrument limits, you can set the range values, display opening, and the limits. Yeah, that's also what we're going to look at soon. Here, 2 tabs are used, blah, 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 blah. In the case of the round instrument, check the box next to the measurements. Yeah, but that's in the other. Yeah, that's in the other menu. Okay. Very, very useful, because I have no idea what this means. Yellow. Or the checkbox, at least. I don't know. Hey, Taco, good to see you. Yeah, it is indeed. It's been a while. Making slow progress on the Skyhawk, mostly because of work intervening with this wonderful project. So I'm trying to prep for this weekend to do my first test flight with the Skyhawk. So, fuel flow. I'm not going to press those checkboxes because I don't know what they are for. And when I'm seeing green arc range and fuel flow, I just think of the fuel flow gauge, right? So let's see if we can bring that one up. 172 SP fuel flow gauge. Ah, perfect. Yes. And these are in gallons. Yeah, per hour. Yes. So it shouldn't be that difficult then. Green is already from 0. We don't have a yellow. And it goes up to, I guess, 12, right? 12. So 12. And goes up to 19. It's already set at 20. Yeah, 19. That's the red line. Well, we don't really have a red line. But that's the top. And what's this then? This is the bottom. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, me too. Working to just and also testing to be a state trooper. Ah, roger that. Roger that. Good luck with that, man. Yeah, that was the fuel flow. Torque and power. Yeah, so torque was a completely different concept than I initially thought. I thought torque was just was quite the same as RPM actually, which isn't true. Torque is power. It's well, not really power, because we also got horsepower as a measure, as a metric. But it's more like something, how much force something has to move another thing. In feet per pound, I think. And I think that this is something that we should not actually set, because this entire tab here, systems limits thing, only refers to instruments. Hey, Teto, good to see you. Torque is a force. Yes, power is a measure of energy flow per unit time. RPM is rotational speed. Alrighty. Thanks. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Jill, good to see you. Thank you guys for just dropping by, saying hello. Yeah, so I think these tabs refer to instruments. And so because of that, these don't make sense for a Skyhawk 172. Power is torque times RPM. Roger. Also hello. Yeah. Manifold pressure. Is that MP? I think so. Or just something else. It's a little bit frustrating that there's no hover here in this tab. And this is pressure. And this just reminds me of just basic inches, just basic pressure like you could put in your altimeter. And I guess when you put in full throttle at sea level, you indeed provide, I don't know if this is correct or not, but this suggests to me that makes that, I mean, then you open that throttle thingy in the engine, and just the main pressure, air pressure just comes in and you got full power. And if you pull on the throttle, you decrease that pressure. Or it's just MP, max, no, I don't know. And also the PlaneMaker manual doesn't tell us anything about that specifically. So the MP is manifold pressure. Here's how piston engines work. The piston basically creates a vacuum on intake. Yes. So I guess then indeed the throttle, how is it called? It's that thing that turns in the throttle intake pipe. And so you, I guess then, based on that vacuum sucking force with the throttle, you can determine how much air actually, or actually the mixture of fuel and air can go into the cylinders. The air tries to fill that space. That's how air intake and pistons work. Interesting. Chill. Whenever the engine is idle, MP, atmospheric pressure. I would say the opposite. But I guess that's a misconception on my part. Your throttle is simply a restriction where you limit how much air is allowed to enter the piston. Yes. Thank you, guys. So one thing that I don't quite understand with this menu is we have maximum manifold pressure that we can set here. Max power, red line RPM, sea level, yes. Which is 29.92 sea level, I guess. But we also have a red line over here. But this is, I guess, just a absolute measure or number that we can provide explain with our aircraft. And this refers to our instruments. So either way, I guess this should, and we don't have a power readouts in the cockpit. So I would suggest to set this to the exact same measure. This is not the quickest way, by the way, but still. Toto, chill for exactly opposite. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly the opposite. Yeah. Hence, by restricting the ATG, you lower the pressure in the manifold. MP is measured after the throttle plate. Thank you, Toto. On naturally aspirated engines, so no forced induction at max power, you pretty much have the throttle wide open. Yeah. Yeah. So therefore, it makes sense that with max manifold pressure, max power, that would be sea level pressure, 29 point, because that is atmospheric pressure. And if we lower the RPM, you would lower this pressure. So, and I guess that goes down to 0 in terms of instruments. I don't know. I guess so, because then there's a complete vacuum. And that's obviously not going to be the case, practically, realistically speaking. But again, I think I don't need to be that focused on these numbers. But I think this makes sense. Red line would be full power, would be atmospheric pressure. So this would be either be the same number. Your MP will be very close to ambient air pressure. Yes. Yes, and yeah, it will not be absolutely atmospheric pressure, I guess, because there's always some kind of a vacuum going on or lower pressure there. So this is actually theoretically true, but practically though it's not. And Toto, does this actually matter, this number that we put in here, in terms of how our plane will behave in X-plane? Because we already set design, horsepower and stuff in all of the other menus. Is this just arbitrary stuff that we put in here? Or because if not, if this is real stuff, then indeed I should just lower this number, I guess, just a bit. I mean, these might be tiny differences though. These pages are simply for the stock X-plane instruments. Yeah. So just for the instruments. Yeah. Okay. And because we're going to model I'm planning to model those on my own, custom made with Blender, and I cannot wait to start with Blender, guys. I'm already prepping, studying to do that. So yeah. So I shouldn't be too frustrated or too serious here. What's max ITT or TIT based on engine type? ITT. I've heard about that before. Temperature? Yes, temperature. Degrees, yeah. 68 degrees. Doesn't ring a bell to me at all. There's a few of these that are used in the physics model, though. Notably ITT, HGT, and I think. And I, yeah. Okay. So this one, and that one. But I guess that these ones here on the right side, on this red line stuff, those specifically relate to the instrument bit. And these might be actually used. So the engine has a particular horsepower, particular power to it that we already set in other menus. But chances are, because we will not reach absolute atmospheric pressure at sea level when we give full throttle, we also will never fully get, even on the ground, just as a thought experiment, I guess, max manifold pressure, and therefore also never full power. So I think it makes sense that we should actually lower this number just a tiny bit to further mimic what is actually going on in the Even though it's just my own tag here of that I know what I'm doing here, it will not make a significant difference in the engine performance when we are in X-Plane, but I think that might be right. Oh my gosh, Toto. It's really kind of confusing. Yeah. Notably ITT. Okay. Our turbine engines are for turbine engines. Okay. I've heard something about it. I think Stevo1 Knievo talked about those. And he's flying the TBM, which is a turbine driven. Yeah. TIT is turbine inlet temperature. Entering there. Interjet is... Let me see if I can get that, even though it is not relevant to our Skyhawk. This is so interesting, Toto, just to learn new stuff. I'm glad you're here. Let me see. ITT, there are for turbine engines. Yes. Inter-turbine temperature is temperature between some turbine stages, okay? And TIT is turbine inlet temperature entering the turbine stages. The rule is always as follows. The turbine inlet temperature is greater than the inter and is greater than EGT. Yes. The engine manufacturer will usually pick one and give you a calibrated table. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Bam. I was thinking about that too when I was reading that, and then I thought, well, he's not saying actually the air coming in. Turbine isn't the engine. A turbine is a part of a turbine engine. Roger. Interesting stuff. And that's, I guess that's also an entirely different phenomenon, guys, those turbine engines. I was also in bed yesterday thinking about, well, it still take me a lot of time to create our Skyhawk. And I'm also loving the fact that I will continuously, hopefully, most definitely, continue optimizing the Skyhawk, also just in terms of animations and other stuff that I have in my mind. But I also think, would I actually, after this project, once we got a decent aircraft that I would fly as a serious student pilot, would I then start to make another airplane? What airplane would it be? And I thought about, well, it would be quite educational to then move on to a turbine engine airplane. But I thought, my gosh, that opens up an entirely new chapter of how those engines work and stuff. And then I would really study engines a bit more, because even now with this project, I am learning so much about engines and electrical systems and stuff, but it's not really proper academic study. I've no books or stuff that I'm really studying before I'm doing this stuff. So guys like Toto just dropping by and saying, well, Tim, what is this? Is really great. But still, these are more like tips, or we get a sense of what's going on. It's not really proper, comprehensive understanding. And I guess on that level, you need to go to college, I guess, or even follow some kind of course to really understand it, rather than some self-study. But all right. I think 29.91 is elegant here. Max, it is a turbine, so that's not for us. And max EGT and C. Okay, so cylinder head temperature, I'm familiar with when I was flying the 182 at the beginning of my first stream 3 years ago. But we don't have a readout, at least I'm not familiar with that instrument in a Skyhawk 172. I don't know why they do that, actually. I think because you can really mess up the cylinder head temperature by using the prop lever. So if you have a variable prop pitch lever thing, then you can, I don't know why actually, or perhaps only because the 182 has a greater engine, a bigger engine, that there might be risk. Either way, you're going to put this thing in if there is a risk of you messing up some kind of engine configuration while flying, combination of throttle, mixture, prop, cowling, to overheat the engine or shock cool it. But it would be interesting because I guess the cylinder head temperature also for a Skyhawk would tell you something about how efficient and also how effective your burn is in the engine. So rather than having a look at the EGT temperature to have an idea of whether you're running on an efficient burn. I guess when you're really optimizing your engine performance based on your cruise and stuff. This is actually a much more true. This is actually what you're most interested in. To get, I don't think you really need to get the peak cylinder head temperature, because that might damage the cylinder itself. So it's always rich of peak, but that's usually in reference to EGT and not cylinder head temperature. So I'm not quite sure, but it's interesting. Why don't we have a cylinder head temperature? Cylinder head temperature basically tells you what the temperature of the metal of the engine itself. Yes. Okay, EGT. Well, I'm just looking at the instrument. Again, we're going to make our own, but... Oh, it's just next to it. Obviously. Cook. All right, we need to count some... Let me see. Tap. So difference is 25. So that would be, yeah. I don't know if it makes any sense at all, but obviously the bottom should be 0. Let's put 25 in Fahrenheit at the bottom green arc. 25. And the top is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. $400. That's hot. Oh, and the top of the range, let's make it also then 400, I guess. And max EGT here, that doesn't seem to be right. Now again, this is for the instruments. I guess that the EGT can even be hotter than what can be displayed here. Well, the PlaneMaker manual says that it should be in the POH. Let's just also have a look here, because I'm just referring to the gauges, but perhaps that's not really the way to go. Now let's look at the information manual, which should also include the same information as in the POH, I think. EGT, does that ring a bell? Yeah, recommended lean for reach of peak. Not really. Not really. I think this is fine. I think I would set this to the same temperature here. At least that temperature. Perhaps we just increase it. So we allow it to become hotter, I guess. That 24 difference, that the lines are 24 apart. Does it mean the top is 16 times 24 is 400 absolute? I can guarantee you that the maximum on that gauge is a heck of a lot higher than 400 absolute. Oh, really? Oh, gosh. I guess then I will reach into the thousands already. Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, so the mistake I'm making is that it actually starts at 0. But this indication, there's no suggestion anywhere, whoa, here on this instrument that the first cut here, this first yellow thingy, is actually 24 degrees Fahrenheit. It might already be at 100. We don't know. So it's that's totally right, Toto. It's that hot? Just practically, I think, my gosh, we're now 400 degrees Fahrenheit would be quite hot, but I guess it's an engine and it should be much hotter. So then I do like to see a reference though. I do like to find it in the manuals. Then the POH is the, I would say if it's not in the information manual, we would very likely also not find it here in the POH, but 404 is stone cold for an exhaust pulse. My gosh, okay. Again, misconceptions on my parts. Interesting, Toto, thanks. Yeah, EGT, I guess, or what's the thing? Yeah, we got the same. Where can I find that stuff? Perhaps it's maintenance manual. Oh, here. Cylinder head temperature. Cylinder with the hottest cylinder sign. Yeah, this is with the G1000. The indicator range is from 100 to 500 with a normal operating range at 200, 500 and a warning range. So that's something. Max is 500. Bottom is, well, I don't know if that's green. Again, we don't care about this because we don't have this gauge. But the fact that it can be max 500 at least indicated. That's Fahrenheit, right? Oh, that's important. Fahrenheit. Oh, here. The indicator range is from 1250 to 1650. Man, that's hot, Toto. Man, alright. Yeah, see the EGT section, exactly. Alright, interesting. EGT. Max 1650. Man, that's interesting. It's nice to know. So the red line would be the same, I guess. And it starts from 1250, so the difference is 400, yeah. 1250. Yeah, let's put 16 in here then, 1650. 65, did I put that in? 50. And I guess, yeah, then 0. I think this makes sense. Still nothing compared to how hot the flame itself is. See Wikipedia link above. And see gasoline in air. I'm curious. Let me see. How freaking hot would it be? What did you say? You said look for gasoline in air. No. Is this that I need to look at? 3800? No, no, no. Toto, is that it? Search in air, or here. Is in a relatively narrow range around 1950 degrees Celsius. That's kind of the same, I guess. Well, kind of. Am I reading this right? The constant pressure aerobatic flame area of such in air in a relatively narrow range around 1950 degrees. Toto, what the... Okay, I had no idea that it was that hot. Thank you for being here, because this is expanding my understanding of what's actually going on. Again, this is what I mean. I don't have a really comprehensive understanding of what's actually going on in the engine. And through these suggestions and pointers, I'm learning, which is actually a really fun way of learning, to be honest. But there's not really a fundamental understanding of what's going on so far. I mean, that's relatively okay, but still, I mean, one of the primary goals of this project is also just to get more, as I was put it, intimately familiar with the Skyhawk, and that also includes the engine and systems and stuff. And so this is an important thing. I was quite naive thinking what the temperature would be. And also just the readout of the EGT gauge. I never noticed that the bottom range here has no absolute indication. I really thought it was 0, and obviously it is 0, I guess. Once the well, no, not necessarily. What this range actually stands for. So we're just, as pilots, we're only concerned, I guess. And this might be the top. It's also not. I'm now. This is also a interpretation or a guess, I guess, that the top of the arc would be 1650. I mean, that's the max EGT, but we also don't know whether this is the top 1650. Perhaps it even goes further. So, yeah. But again, this is the important number here. When it starts at 1250, we knew from the manual. Indicator range, 1250 to 650, we get every 50. Yeah, okay. Never mind. That's it. Max EG, let's also put this in 500 here. Check out the flame temperature in pure oxygen, around 2 times. That's the temperature inside rocket engines. Oxygen. Was it? Oxygen. Man. And here also. Gosh. Yeah, rockets are rockets. Man. Interesting, Toto. Well, thanks again. Naive. Yes. Numbers set. Save. Learned. Next tab. Maximum oil temperature. Oil temperature gauge. This one. Thanks for the follow, Johannes. Thanks for the follow. Welcome. Yeah, pressures, that's stuff that we haven't set before, so that makes sense that we need to do that somewhere. Toto, it seems reasonable that the round dial gauge also goes from 12. Yeah. As we also read here in the manual, I guess, based off the G1000 indications. So at 1344, yeah, roger. Oil temperature. So max temperature, 245, and that's also red line. Perhaps it can even go hotter. I don't know. But it shouldn't go any hotter than that. We don't have a yellow. It should be 0, and green would be 100. Again, doesn't really matter here in PlaneMaker, but and this is in Fahrenheit. That's important. Yes. Okay. Nominal oil pressure. Yeah, what's nominal? Between in the green arc at least, but yeah, any units. Okay. So that would be I guess we have the same kind of reference here for oil. Engine instruments. Engine lubrication system, oil, yes. Does it also have a... No? Oil temperature, right. Let me see. Or pressure, oil is or temperature, and when oil pressure annunciation on the runway, oil pressure is 0 to 20. I read X through the so this is in the G1000 again. Let me see. Oil pressure. Indicator range is from 0 to 120 psi. Let me see what's green again. Start from green band from 50 to 90. 50 to 90. Red line band from 115 to 120. So I guess 115 then. Let's have a look at the actual gauge. Steam gauge. Thanks, Otto. Good luck with that meeting. Thanks for dropping by and helping me out. Always appreciate it, man. 115 it is. Good. And max is 90. That doesn't seem right. Should be actually more, but I don't trust this particular picture because it's animated, and I just like to see the real thing. Also not the X-plane one, but just the real thing. Skyhawk. Yeah, this is also still X-plane. I guess it's just the same reference. Ah, there it is. Yeah, that is 90. That's interesting. So the other picture was wrong. From 50 indeed to 90, as you can see. Max is 115. And that's 0. What is the nominal oil pressure? Well, not 115, I would say. Nominal is just usual, right? Or am I... It's outside normal limits. Yes. If oil pressure exceeds either the upper lane, yes. Indicator ranges 0 to 120 with a red band. Agreement from 50 to 60. Yes. Oil pressure 0 to... Yeah. Nominal oil pressure. Have we already set the temperature? Yes. Pressure. Yeah, we get all kinds of pressures here. Oil pressure, static range, oil pressure minimum, maximum. Yes, we know, but that's certainly not green. Oh, we actually got tables for this stuff. Awesome. Is there anything on nominal? This is not the most efficient way, but I'm just gonna, if there's nothing here about that, already went, I'm just gonna pick some number in the middle of the green arc. Or perhaps that's not even nominal and it should be greater, but... Also need to double check that nominal means what I think it means. I mean, I don't know if nominal is also a word that we can search for. Oh, we were almost there. Let's finish this. Yeah, there we were. Nominal. No. Yes, let's double check that it means what I think it means. Nominal. Very small, far below the real value of cost. Oh. That's different. Nominal oil pressure. Is it the... And also fuel pressure? This is important. What is nominal oil pressure on a gauge? What wrong if oil pressure is too low? Right. Depends on the engine, RPM, temperature, and you would need to shop. Yeah. Nominal is too low. Then this would need to be set to 20, I guess. Nominal oil pressure. Nominal oil pressure. Skyhawk. Can make it any more specific. Why doesn't it use the entire string? Because it couldn't find anything. Okay. Again, pressure. Nominal pressure is a dimensionless marking of a maximum operating pressure. Okay, so nominal term differs based off context, I guess, or application. Yeah, exactly. From a philosophical viewpoint, nominal value represents an accepted condition. Yeah, the distinction between real value and nominal value occurs in many fields. Often the is defective rather than exact. Yeah, maximum it is. And that makes sense because the stuff that we put in here was also max. So based off of consistency, you would expect that it would be the same. I guess. I think so. Then fuel pressure. POH. Let's go to that one first because I know where it was. I believe, I hope, I think. Engine instruments. Going the wrong way. Oil fuel flow. Yes, and this is fuel pressure. Oil pressure, oil temperature, cylinder head, exhaust, lubrication, induction, fuel injection system. Fuel system. Total fuel distribution. is located. Yeah, but it's a gravity-based fed system, fuel system, isn't it? In the Skyhawk with a high wing configuration. Electric fuel pump pressure. Nice, these charts. I don't see anything on this in the POH. I remember that we said for the fuel tanks with the weight and balance step, we also said something with concern to pressure, but it was a kind of like a ratio or what tank should be prioritized. And in our case, we just set the same pressure. Fuel pressure. Fuel pressure. Manifold fuel pressure gauge. What the heck? Introduce my native manifold. What the hell? Yeah, we have that same thing here. Information manual. Fuel pressure? Temperature, fuel grade, fuel pump, fuel vapor, checklists. Yes. I did read something about that. Perhaps it's only in this manual. Fuel pressure. Fuel pressure measured by the use of transducer mounted near the fuel manifold. This transducer produces an electrical signal which is translated for the cockpit mounted indicator in gallons per hour. This transducer produces an electrical signal which is translated for the cockpit mounted indicator in gallons per hour. Okay. So we could recalculate our fuel flow over here. In terms of pressure. There's only one. Oh. Wait a minute. So you got gallons? You've got gallons per hour, but if you got pounds per hour, that's pressure. Is that it? If that's it, I think we... Because 1 gallon of gas, I guess. I thought it was 6 pounds. Was that? Is that true? I mean, I don't know if this thing is actually also for a 172, because then it becomes even more easy. Never seen such a gauge in a 172. Cessna manifold pressure, yes, I know, but is this also for a 172? So 1 gallon of gas in pounds. 6. £6 per gallon. So if we need to get the max, it's 19 times 6. Does that make sense? $114 sounds like a lot in terms of pressure. In any units. So this is not even based off of pounds. So it's some relative thing. Let me just put this in so we have something. Double check my own calculation. 6 times, what was it? 19. 114 indeed. 114. And we put the same thing here. Pounds per hour. I don't know if that's correct. Electric fuel pump pressure, low fuel pressure warning. Low fuel pressure warning. Do we have such a thing in the... Is it the annunciator? Can it do that? How to calculate fuel pressure. Sometimes it just helps. Flow versus pressure. Current fuel pressure. New fuel rates. No. Chill, I may be wrong, but I don't think fuel pressure, which should be measured in, is related to fuel flow, which measures. Yeah, I think so too, Chill. But so far I haven't found anything else. To me, it also suggests that this is too big. But still, there's no, in any units, it says here on the in PlaneMaker. So perhaps it doesn't really matter. But if it doesn't matter, why is it there? Yeah, so you got flow rates, that's fuel flow, and you got pressure. So there should be some kind of a relation there. Relationship. Fuel pressure calculator, sounds good. Yeah, that makes sense to have something like that. So how big the pipe is actually, how thick, how wide the pipeline is. And bars, obviously. Chill, but is it universal configuration for any airplane, or did you choose, for example, single piston, non-compressed? No, it's for every aircraft, every airplane. I mean, we did set that we have a prop, but it's not that we specifically set to plane we have a prop and nothing else. There are checkboxes and metrics for either jets, turbine, single piston stuff. So yeah, it's a universal general kind of setting. But I'm interested in finding some, yeah, in pressure measured. Come on, Mac. How many results? Too many. Nose wheel pressure. Pump. Fuel pump. Maximum fuel pump currents. Fuel flow pressure. 24 volt system, that's what we have. Maximum fuel pump current, 3 amps, that's also what we set. Fuel pump, 3 amps, yes. Good. Yes, but chill, the 172S also has a electrical fuel pump for priming the engine. So the usage of that thing is a little bit different than for a low wing plane, I believe, where you need to set the fuel pump also during takeoff and any time you need full fuel pressure. Let me see. So we got different fuel pump parts. I don't know which one we have. We can just pick our own. Let's just pick 23 PSI. And that would also be 23 here. And but this is this is not from, is it also from the fuel pump? Auxiliary pump. It's also 23. We've got an engine-driven pump, and we also got a electrical fuel pump. But again, they are referring to the 3 amps, and we associate that. We already know that that's associated with the electrical fuel pump. So I'm going to set this to the same. Perhaps this also just makes sense that it should be the same pressure. I would guess that the engine-driven fuel pump would be more powerful than the electrical one. Is there anything on when we can expect to see a fuel pressure warning. Do we have that in the annunciator? Annunciator panel? Warming? No. Annunciator panel 172. Low fuel, oil pressure, vacuum and volts. Yes. Now this is still, I just like to see the actual thing. I believe there's not a fuel pressure, only a low fuel readout. But again, first I'm seriously thinking about what the annunciator message panel actually displays. Usually I just test the thing to see if all the lights, all the messages light up, but yeah, there's no readout here in the right side, right? On the right side, it's just empty. Takes to the tanks, but it does have the electrical pump. That's true, Roger. I believe we don't have a warning for this. Perhaps some... again, these are universal settings, so perhaps with other airplanes that do have such a readout, this would be relevant. But in our case with the Skyhawk, it doesn't really matter at all. It's so cool when we are searching for 172 annunciator panel that there's so many pictures from Flight Simulator. So I guess this is as much in low. There's something here, oil pressure. Yeah, there's nothing here to the right side. Yeah, okay. Okay. I set it to 24. Why did I set it to 24, not 23? 24 gallons, yes, but the pressure was 23. Duke's model is 14. Yeah, I don't know which one we would build in. I would just take the one with the biggest pressure. Done. Safe in between, important. Then we have nominal battery voltage. Interesting. So again, we got an alternator that generates 28 volts, I believe, even more. I don't know, 28 volts. And it translates to the battery that outputs 24 volts to our system. So the nominal battery voltage is not 24. Battery 24 volt battery. Hey Digital, good to see ya. Thank you for dropping by, saying hi. Looking for nominal battery voltage. Again, I'm messing up, or not really, have not yet messed up. Again, we've got the alternator, 28 volts. We've got the battery, 24 volts, but we've got a low volts reading, and when the voltage drops below 24.5 volts is then, well, it's interesting. Let me put it like that. Battery. Let's not skip anything. 28 volts, yeah, so this looks familiar. Electrical energy for the airplane is supplied by 28 volt direct current, single primary bus to a lip. A single 24 volt main battery powers, yes. This is all well and nice, but still I would like to see some normal readouts. Perhaps I also have some other documents on this that need maintenance. A normal charge battery will indicate 23 volts or more. Yeah. I mean, we don't really have a green arc, and this is all just referring to instruments that we are not going to build. So this is a really bit arbitrary, I guess. But based off of that, I would say 23 volts or more. And nominal, again, is max. And then the red line is at 26. Well, that could be perhaps with electrical systems, because they could have a power surge or something like that. You can either have too high of a voltage or too low. And I think in either case we got the volts reading. I don't know, actually. Anyways, this is something. Let's move on. Yes. Batteries. I cannot wait to start with Blender, guys. I'd like to be more artistic than this. Pretty pictures. If the voltmeter shows more than 20... Oh no, this is... Yeah, the pretty table that I was so glad to find. Come on, give me some numbers. All kinds of procedures to fix batteries and stuff. 20 volt power. How many? Oh, we don't have many left. Good. And there we are at the end. Okay. Bummer. We can just Google. Cessna Skyhawk. Battery voltage. No, this is not that website. Was it this one? For batteries. No, there was some website. Indeed, it was 24.5. Is max that the battery can do. But I'd just like to know for sure, because that's how we built this thing. No, I think I'm good. Oh, different temperatures. Interesting. So that's something that we can use, I guess. So yeah. Maybe we don't really have a good indicator of the battery. We got a clock, obviously, where we can look at, but there's no green or... So we could base it off temperature. That's not a bad thing. We can perhaps even translate that to the... But this is a battery. This is still confusing me though. We got a 24-volt battery and it can go up to 27, 28, 29. But that's the generator, right? Again, I should read this stuff, but 24 battery needs about 28 volts to be charged. But what does it output on its own? So let's just use this then. Let me see, 29.5. 29.5. Oh, this is max. Chill, are you planning to release the plane as freeware or payware? Freeware. It's gonna be freeware. And I'm gonna make it really pretty chill. Nice livery, Photoshop source files. Also gonna model pilots and also provide good source Photoshop files so you can dress up your pilots like it's you. And I'm gonna provide all manuals. I'm gonna make a updated checklist for it and all kinds of other nice features and continuously updated based off of my own flights. So it's gonna have a separate website and yeah, really gonna take care of that thing. Thanks for the effort. You're welcome. I mean, it's also just a gesture back to the community. You guys are also inspiring me and sharing stuff. And I also think that learning should be free in terms of providing a study level Skyhawk with all animations and stuff. It really sparks. I think that can spark people's interest in flight simulation even more. Yes. 29.5 might be the red line, so well, let's put this at 27.5 then. Oh, 27.5. 50 volts. How do I? Well, 29. Okay. Not quite pleased with this because we just read this off of a website and I'd rather see a proper manual, but at least we have something. Let me browse through my manuals here because I have so much more stuff. And stuff is not necessarily good, but amps. No, this is just, this also not that I want. Landing lights, also not what I wanted. Was it this electrical load? I believe this chart was off as well in many ways. Landing lamps. Yeah, no. This should be just in the manual. It's weird that it's not in the manual. What the range is of the battery. Again, did I search already for battery? I think I did, but 24 volts. Caution. Electrical system. Yes, we know. We know. We studied these before. Ah, that's interesting. Well, that makes sense. The ELT has its own battery. That makes sense. That means that I need to subtract about a half an amp from my electrical overhead thing. That makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, load. Ah, interesting digital. Good luck with your flight. Have fun. Where is that very nice table? Are you done? Where is that table? Table. I think it was in the maintenance manual, or what, am I wrong? Here it is. ELT should be somewhere. Starter motor. Oh no, I found it. Not here. I added it from my sticky notes from my desktop. Remember? And perhaps it was based off of this one. ELT. No, it's not listed here as far as I can see. Where did I find it? Now, I don't know how many amps it was. I think it was 0.9. Now I need to know. Well, there's one way to do it. Electrical systems are go. The rest we cannot. That was my previous stream. Let me see how I started the stream. Yes, ELT 0.2. Okay. So 0.2 electrical system overheads. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, minor thing, but we are precise. Save. Okay, yeah, it has its own battery pack. That's obvious. So far, so good. Yeah, so I'd like to be on the batteries. Maximum battery amperage. That was 60. Have you also searched here on battery? I think we did. Again, I'm feeling tired already from after a good day of work. Need to stop streaming soon. Let me see. I think it was 60. Perhaps it's not in this manual, but the POH. Again, battery. We went all through it. I think it was a 60. It was somewhere. Where was it? This is just basic. There it is. Amps. Yeah, 60 amp alternator. 60 amps, Roger. And so, yeah, red line. Doesn't really matter. 60. Yeah, nominal means max in this case, I think. 29.5. Is there any other place where we set this battery voltage? I don't know, actually. Electrical systems. Should be here. Not here. Obviously not there. Generator design RPM. Each battery has so many watt hours. Well, that's partly. And not here, not there. Yeah, we came close. It's not a bad guess. Still though, one more result in Google would really make me happy in terms of battery voltage range. Battery voltage range. Volt battery info. Sounds good. Yeah, I already visited this page. 24 volts. No. No. Perhaps it's also in the service manual. Wing loading. It reminds me, there's also some other tab somewhere, not in this page for today's stream, but somewhere else where we need to put that in as well. Just the load that the Cessna can handle in terms of the wings. No, focus, Tim. Focus. You can do it. You can do it. So that's the service manual I was talking about. Dated one though, but there's so much information here. Battery. Yes. Check your battery. I know, but yeah, this is just the 14 volts. Number indicates 11.5. This is the same kind of table that we already saw. For the 172S, so that's good. Yeah, so this is interesting. The system is controlled by the left-hand portion of the split rocker master switch labeled alternator. An overvoltage sensor switch and red warning light labeled high voltage are incorporated, well not with the 172S I believe, to protect the system. Makes sense though. The aircraft battery supplies the source of power for excitation of the alternator, yes. But what is the high voltage number? That would be nice to know. The 60 ampere alternator, we got that. 3-phase delta connected into the alternator is belt driven and is rated 14 volt 60 ampere continuous output. Yeah, that's still a 14 volt thingy. Can't we find anything on this? Nope. 24.5 volts is max, right? That's the only thing that I'm nominal. What does nominal mean? Well, we already saw it depends. I thought it was meant just average, normal, but it's actually max, which is consistent with the previous tabs, which also max EGT, max cylinder head temperature. Nominal battery lowest is 20. Is that correct? I would say it's just 0. And even though this is just for instruments, I think there could also be less than 20 volts in for the battery, I guess, when it's completely dead. Or rather set this just to 0. And again, this just refers to instruments, which we really don't care about. It's mostly these numbers here on the left side. Max battery amperage, pressure, nominal XMSN pressure. No idea what that is. I think that's not relevant for us. And max instrument suction. That's important. That's the vacuum pump. Was that this thing? Not sure whether this was the vacuum pump that I found on eBay for the 172. I need to find this for the amperage. But then you guys said, well, the vacuum pump is not electrically driven. It's just based off of the engine. So I'm not sure anymore. Either way, there's nothing here in terms of pressure or suction. We have a reading though, or a gauge. Vacuum suction gauge. There it is. So let's see. In terms of amperage, yeah. It can also be minus. That's interesting. But this is max battery amperage that it can put out. Yeah. Yeah, this is good. Max APU, GPU, that's not something that we have, right? I think. suction, max suction 7. Lowest is 0. Start of green arc is 4.5. Then goes up to 5.5. And then has a red. Well, we don't really have a red line, but it should be 7. Max instrument suction 7. Good. Done. Engine driven generator. I mean, we have an alternator, right? We don't have a generator. An APU, GPU, or red amperage. That's a thing outside of the airplane, I guess, that can also generate electrical power. Engine driven generator. Does the Skyhawk have an engine-driven generator? I guess not. Sometimes this helps, actually. No, it's not. Nominal generator voltage, and this is max battery amperage, and this is the. Oh, we never. This is 60 amps of the battery. Is it actually true? Perhaps it's even not the battery, but it's actually the alternator, and that might be the difference between the two. I'd like to double check though, just to be sure. Hello, why is it not highlighted? 24 volts. Yeah, a 60 ampere alternator powers to. Yeah. But perhaps that's just the same, actually. 60 amps. So max should also be 60, by the way. And for the battery, we have two buses that have I think fuses, electrical fuses of max 30 amps. So it might be that the battery and the alternator just put out as many amps. Salty, alternator belt runs off the engine to charge the battery, thus making the generator. Roger. Yes. Yes, so what you're suggesting is that in this case, I mean, some other airplanes also call it a generator, but in our case, the generator is actually functioning here in PlaneMaker as our alternator. Yes. So now my question would be to double check whether the battery amperage would be the same as the alternator amperage. which is not necessarily the case. I remember a page where it was noted, but again, where did I find that? Was it here? It wasn't here, I think. It wasn't in the information manual. Just a few pages, just to make sure. A 60 amp alternator, roger. ELT with the battery pack. No. Maintenance manual or the structural? Either one. Either one. Affirm, you gotta think he's salty. Thanks for the help. I appreciate it. There we go again. Battery. Single 24 volt. Roger. This is it. Electrical power is supplied to the two primary electrical buses through two 30A fuses. Yes. These electrical buses supply power to two avionics buses through 15 amps. Yeah. 24 volts, 12.75 amps per hour times 5 would approximate 60 amps. Yeah. That's the same value, I think. $60 amps it is. And we also said this stuff. We did it. I did it. No, we did it. With your help, guys. Done. System limits. Yeah. How much time do we have? Well, practically none. I need to get rested before going to bed, but I cannot stop myself. Limits. So we got systems limits, but we also got a more generic limits menu. Let's just have a look at it. I'm also feeling tired. I should just call it a day. Tomorrow there's another day for streaming, perhaps. Instrument limits. Mainly set limits for this instrument. Don't want to. Okay. Oh yeah, I remember from last stream. Yes. So I think that I now understand what this actually does. So there are system limits, but these are the limits of the needles in the cockpit. So we can set a particular value, a bottom value and a top value. Which should correspond to our system's bottom and top value, and then an angle of the needle when it's either indicated the low angle. I mean, it's not completely downwards or upwards, the needles, for example, with the EGT. So here you can set how many degrees they should be pointed towards. And I guess this is stuff that we need to set once we have our 3D cockpit, because then I have a sense of what the angle should be when we have actually modeled the needle and stuff. Chill, gotta go, Tim. Thanks for the stream. See ya, Chill. Thanks for the help. Bye bye. appreciate you guys just saying hi and dropping by, even though with these streams and you just see me studying and tinkering. I mean, this is so less engaging than a flight. Okay, so I will skip this actually. Digital instruments, these are the round instruments. Interesting. And for digital, what does it say? Yeah, you don't see a digital doesn't. Interesting. Okay, so these are just plain data refs, I guess. This is for later. Okay. Backlog, I will just put it in. Limits. Setting. Gauge needle angles. So I'm just putting this here because once we're going to start with Blender and 3D model the Skyhawk, so actually building the thing rather than just a physical model here in PlaneMaker, then I might forget about this. And I have modeled my AGT oil pressure gauges perfectly, but I don't see the needle do anything. And I think, oh my gosh, did I 3D model it wrong, incorrectly? But it could be because I didn't do this, and that's why I put it here, so I know. Viewpoints, well, that shouldn't be too big of a problem. That might be fun, even. Viewpoint, because here we can set some basic things. Cockpit, general aviation, that's true. Where the cockpit might be, again, this might be something that we need to look at once we have an actual cockpit. Camera instrument offsets, yes. Screen centers, aircraft panel visibility. Yeah. This is also for later. Setting viewpoints. Also 3D lights. Yes. Data refs, a spotlight, a floodlight. Different instrument brightness. Oh my gosh. Interesting. Exterior lights. Yeah, so here we can set all the different lights. This is actually a fun bit. I'm gonna leave this. I'm feeling tired. But here we can set a different light. For example, the landing lights. I can show you guys just quickly. Can just zoom in. Hello? Yeah. So the landing light, for example, has a particular position. Well, there it goes, the little bubble here in the middle. And we can set it to the spot where the actual light should be, because the rendering of the light is obviously done by X-Plane, so that's not something that we could render also in Blender, but we can only import the actual visual model inside an external model of the Skyhawk, and it's X-Plane that's doing all the live rendering for the lights and all of the different shadows and stuff. So that's why here in PlaneMaker we need to set where our lights are, and that's also the way where we can set all kinds of other spotlights, I guess. Yeah, so this spotlight we can use, or generic white. We need to look for what it actually is doing. I don't know what the difference is between a spotlight and a generic white. But the wing courtesy light, and perhaps also in the cockpit, all kinds of different lights, pedestal lights, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is a place where we can set those. Fueling trucks, bouncers, we don't have, I think. Yeah, so this is an entirely different topic. Okay, so we are a bit closer. That's wonderful. Yeah, so for next time, viewpoints. This is for next episode. The first test flight is going to be in the weekend, I hope. Yeah, so tomorrow or Saturday, it's going to be viewpoints. We're going to set those, and then we are set for our test flight. I cannot wait to load this up. Man, also need to make sure that I don't need to do anything else to make it flyable in X-Plane or testable in X-Plane, such as a 2D cockpit, because I need to use key bindings, I guess, to now start up the this aircraft, because it's just this is actually what we're going to see in X-Plane when I load it up. And it's so pretty though already, but yeah. Also wonder what it will do with our viewpoint when we load it up. What will we see? Will we be inside this thing and we see nothing? Or I guess that's what we can do with this panel here with aircraft and panel visibility. So these are all set to off. We don't have a 3D cockpit view, so I guess we won't see anything. We're just hovering at this cockpit height, I guess. So we just have to see what it does. And what's really wonderful, I didn't know before, is that we can then open up PlaneMaker and keep it open in the background. And at the same time load up X-Plane with our Skyhawk. And we can very quickly just change numbers here, reload the aircraft just with a hit of one button. So it immediately reloads. We can see the effect immediately, directly. Rather than quitting X-Plane, restarting X-Plane, well, starting a new flight and then seeing our change. So that makes testing and optimizing our model so much more easy. So that's really great. Yeah, great. Again, saved. Done. Viewpoint, geometry. Yeah, that's about it, I think. Interesting. Ha! So that was another evening of further developing, continuing with our work of the 172. Yeah, how many hours? 2 hours. Well, that's not too bad. Toto, yeah, you'll see nothing. Yeah, roger that. Well, again, Toto, thank you for dropping by earlier and helping me. That's really, really appreciated. This stuff is complex and so new. So I really appreciate your time here, just even during work, I guess, just to give me some pointers. That's really much appreciated. So perhaps tomorrow, perhaps Saturday, continue my stream just a few hours. Again, this is all during my full-time work. So after work, I drop by here, have dinner with Mrs. Uncertified, and then I already feel quite tired, but we have to make progress this way, because if I wait for full 3 days, then it would take a lot more time before I actually finish the 172. So I need to grab all the hours, minutes that I can find to work on this. 2 hours is not too bad, I guess. See you, Toto. Bye. Okay, so tomorrow or Saturday, we're going to continue and prepping for that test flight. Cannot wait to load it up and explain. That's so weird. My own Skyhawk. Oh man, it started at the beginning this year. So I've already been working on this almost a month. Yeah, pretty much a month. So it's really great. Okay, guys, as always, thank you for dropping by. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for the pointers. That really means a lot. Even if you just drop by and say hi. Thank you. Hoping to see you at my next stream. And as always, happy flights. Blue skies.